Okay, today I want to talk to you about a classroom activity that I do that uses two of my favorite features of the Desmos graphing calculator. The activity comes up usually in Algebra 2 around the time that we're talking about exponential and logarithmic equations. And the situation that I set up for the students is I say, well, imagine you are an evil villain and you are sitting in your lair and you're trying to plan the next crime of the century. And what you've decided to do is you've decided to create a 10.0 earthquake by blowing up a whole bunch of TNT. So the first thing we discuss is how much TNT do you think it would take? Then the next thing we do is we open up a Google Sheet and we make ourselves a little table in this Google Sheet. And I say, all right, well, what if we know that in order to create a 2.0 earthquake, it takes 1 ton of TNT? And so then the students will make predictions based on that. So then I say, all right, well, what if you know an additional piece of information that in order to create a 3.0 earthquake, it takes 30 tons of TNT? Well, that usually kind of surprises them. So we have to revise our predictions quite a bit upwards. And then I say, all right, what if we know that in order to create a 4.0 earthquake, it's going to take 1,000 tons of TNT? And again, we have to revise our predictions. At this point, some of the students are starting to say, maybe this is an exponential equation. And so finally I say, all right, well, we know one more data point that if we want to create a 5.0 earthquake, we are going to have to use 30,000 tons of TNT. And at this point, people are saying, yeah, definitely this has got to be exponential. And so we'll have a discussion about the form of an exponential equation. And then I'll say, well, let's see if we can do exponential regression. Actually, they usually suggest that because they know about regression at this point. And so the first feature that I want to show you is once you have your table of data in your spreadsheet like this, you can copy this table of data and you can take it right into the Desmos graphing calculator. And when you paste that table of data into the Desmos graphing calculator, it will automatically create a table for you. It will assign X1 and Y1 to that table, and it will graph those points and resize the window in a fashion that makes it easy to see that graph. And so I just love that feature because, half of what you do when you have points like this in exponential equations is you tell the kids, you need to find a meaningful window. And they spend a lot of time fiddling around with that window. Whereas when you have Desmos do it for you, you can move on from there and say, okay, now let's talk about the problem. So at some point, usually, if we haven't gotten to this point already, we've talked about the form of an exponential equation and what that looks like. And so the kids know how to do regression, and that's what they do next. And so another feature I really like about this regression on Desmos is that you have to predict. You have to have an equation in mind. If I say, hey, I think that's linear, then you have to say, I think that's linear. You have to put that into Desmos. And so you need to know the form of that equation in order to have it give you the numbers. So in order to produce exponential regression, we are going to say, okay, so Y1, I think that the numbers in the column Y1 is related to X1 in a certain way. And it's really nice. You just type in Y1 and it puts the subscript 1 in for you automatically. So we think that it is an exponential. We think we have a constant out in front multiplied by our growth factor, and that is raised to the power x1. And again, all I have to do is put in x1. Once I've done that, it automatically gives me an equation that will go with that particular regression. And so now I know what my A and my B are for this particular situation, and I can take those and use those in a calculation. And so the kids can say, oh, okay, so that means that if I want to make a 10.0 earthquake, and I usually tell them to round 30.007 off to 30. I'm going to have to raise that to the 10th power, and look at that. Oh my gosh, it's going to take us 728 billion tons of TNT to do this. So to recap, what we did was we typed our data into a spreadsheet, and then we copied that data from the spreadsheet and simply pasted it into an equation on Desmos, and it automatically gave us a table, it graphed the points, and it created a window for us where we could see those points in a really nice fashion. Then I performed regression by using the values on the table and saying, okay, I think y1 is related to x1 as an exponential equation. So it's a times b to the x1. And then the Desmos calculator did the work for me after that.